And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode 13, lucky number 13. And to sort of give away the ending on this one before we reveal it, I actually tried to buy this Aerostar, unsuccessfully I may add, and that's why we're here to tell the story. So this is a 1996 Ford Aerostar minivan, listed in the great city of Richmond, Virginia for $1,800. And as you can see by those big red letters, this is sold. And unfortunately not to me. So we're doing a brief disruption from our Southern California residency here because I wanted to post this before this listing disappeared. It's sold, so it could linger on, but it might just be gone. So, and a quick little aside here, this is one reason why I do prefer Craigslist, because after a vehicle is sold, or it seems like if you've left a tab open for too long, there's no real rhyme or reason, this sort of menu on Marketplace will not go away. If there's a way to make it go away, please let me know. But I've tried, refreshing it and going back. But then once you go back to search, your search is now a new search. So a sold item like this might not come up. So in order to preserve it, I keep all these tabs open because I don't want them to go away until I can get time to, talk about them. So just a shame because, again, this is nitpicky, but these little arrows here, usually on the bigger screen, it'll widen out and they'll be on the side, and you'll get the picture that's not, interrupted by anything. So the Year of the Aerostar is about, Craigslist and classifieds and Facebook Marketplace, just as it is as much about the vans. So apologize for getting sidetracked, but I had to talk about that. It just nerfs me a little bit because I wanted to get some clear pictures of this amazing sky blue custom paint job here. And of course the first two striking things about this Aerostar are the paint job and the color, and of course these just gorgeous, beautiful 3-spoke wheels. Now anyone who's even a casual Mustang fan probably recognize these from the earlier edition of the SN95 Mustang, the first one after the Fox body. Now that Mustang came out right when I was about in middle school, high school, and I did love it, and I love 3-spoke wheels, and I'm a bit picky when it comes to aftermarket wheels I like to see on Aerostars, but this is a Ford product, of course, and I gotta say, especially with this baby blue paint color, which looks almost like half mismatched here or sun faded, just a perfect look. And you have these black bumpers and blacked out grill here, which may have been painted, but may have just been on like sort of the standard model where they weren't all gussied up. Now I would love to see the front bumper painted blue just to see what it looks like, as we see the rear bumper is painted blue, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love body color painted bumpers. And I have to say, the front would look good with that too, but somehow it still works with the black because it has all these other, your headlight bezels and your grille are all blacked out too, so it kind of works with the black bumper. And then you have all this, obviously your cowl, your mirror, your window rubber here, all just sort of works with the black color. But we got 210,000 miles on this vehicle, automatic transmission, blue over gray interior, yada, yada, yada. The seller's description, 1997. So here they're listed as a 1997, is listed as a 96 in the description, which speaks to the discrepancy in year that I've started to experience with these vans. Now, this is probably a casualty of the fact that they all kind of look the same in a basic, broad sense. And so one of the things I always talk about the Aerostar is that it's a monolith in a good way, insofar as it was one singular design that lasted 12 years, and that's all there is. It's easily easy to identify because it is this one singular thing. And yes, there were a lot of subtle changes, and thank you so much for the people who have chimed in and commented, who know way more than I even do about sort of the particular little nuances of the Aerostar and their their reign of greatness. But that being said, there seems to be a lot of discrepancies here. Even within this listing, it's listed as a 96 and 97 simultaneously in the same listing. So that just kind of proves that, proof of concept. 210,000 miles, runs and drives, roll down windows. Now, this is another thing I have to say is absolutely great. Roll down windows, obviously meaning crank windows, meaning manual windows, but, you know, whether you're using a motor or a crank, the windows are still rolling down. So I thought that was just funny, like to think that you're bragging about windows that, you know, are not fixed is kind of like how it comes off to me, which is very funny. But I understand what it means, and I'm glad they put that in there because that was an appeal to me. The fact that they were crank windows. Currently inspected, 123. Great work van, definitely got my use out of it. Now that is a very suspect thing. That seems to make it sound like there were some sort of, you know, romantic relations that went on in the back of it, which, you know, of the many things that an Aerostar is good for, that could certainly be one of them. Romantic relations with anyone, for that matter. Actually, in one of the great Aerostar commercials, they're talking about all the great things the Aerostar can do, and one of them is, you know, the great, like, deep-throated announcer goes, escorting ladies. So me and my friends would always say that. So you can escort a lady in an Aerostar, and well, you know, you can put the pieces together, but has no mechanical issues. In parentheses, I don't have the rear seats. I love how this is somehow parenthetically, you know, the parentheticals kind of would connote that it's related to the first part of the sentence. So having no mechanical issues, but then in parentheses, I don't have the rear seats. Is that saying like, well, this is a mechanical issue insofar as seats are sort of mechanical devices? Just funny to see someone's stream of consciousness poured out onto the page and then read it back and kind of think about it. So beautiful, beautiful description here. Asking $1,800 or best cash offer. So spoiler alert, I think they got their asking price and in only a couple of days, which is great. I saw this thing go up, and with hours, you know, my self-discipline just completely, like, you know, fell through the cavern like loose diarrhea, and was gone. And I messaged him because I saw it was in Richmond. So this is what sort of like a Janky car buyer or any car buyer does. And so I want to just peel back the curtain a little bit. You start getting, you know, real antsy, and then your wheels start turning about 1,000,000 miles an hour inside your head, and you start scheming. You start coming up with a logistical plan and a financial plan to be able to get this vehicle in your driveway. So I know someone in the Richmond area who was usually in the Richmond area. He actually wasn't there, but he was willing to to fly there if I covered his flight. My great friend, I don't know if I should protect his anonymity or not. Let's call him. Let's just call him Freddie. Freddie was willing to go pick this up. Now, he's a great person, and so, you know, always down for like sort of a crazy cockamamie scheme. That's one of the reasons I like him so much. And so I got on the horn with Freddie, and he said, yeah, like, also his father was there, so he could probably handle, you know, delivery of funds and just getting the vehicle out of the seller's space so it was gone, you know, so we didn't have to worry about holding it or any of that stuff. So got on the horn with him. He was game. Next is like, so then if you can have a surrogate, that's the first thing. If you can have someone go down there and pick up the vehicle on your behalf, you know, it saves you the emergency of needing to drop everything that's going on in your life and get down there. Now you're gonna have to pay a little premium for that. You're gonna have to take care of that person for doing that for you, which is fine. You factor that into the price. So I went a little low. I went a little under asking, but was happy to negotiate. Checked out the flight situations, and then it's how do you get the vehicle back up. Well, I don't like to have the vehicle towed. It costs ton of money, especially when you're buying cheap cars like this. Getting a vehicle towed up from any amount of distance, and it almost doesn't matter. Like California is not even that much. You might as well get it shipped across the country if you're going to get it shipped from Ohio or Virginia, because the price is going to be, 75-80% of what it would be for doing that, because the overhead's so high. The shipping companies, they all go through brokers. It's this terrible system, and you can't get someone to nail down a price. Even the companies, there's one company I think that says they'll give you a guaranteed price, but to do that they estimate it way higher than what it's going to be, and they still, I think, even say that even that is not a guarantee, because if it does go higher than that, then they give you like a discount on it. And to lock in that price, you need to give them like this big deposit, even if you're not ready to actually, even if you just want a quote, to get that real, authentic, verifiable quote. They kind of sucker you into putting a deposit down on your credit card. So not a fan of the shipping game. So I'm like, I'd rather pay a private driver. And this is where, to broaden out to Janky AF more broadly, and talk about, like the ethos of Janky, like having friends is the greatest thing in the world. And it's a two-way street. It's a two-way relationship. But if you know people that are sort of like on your wavelength and kind of like appreciate or empathize with what you do and your particular brand of like, insanity, then you kind of all enable each other a little bit. And so I've had a couple of very, very good friends who are willing to sort of go on these little adventures on my behalf. Now, of course, I compensate them. That's only fair. I don't want free. I don't want to put, labor on people's heads without compensating them correctly. But, they're willing to sort of do these sort of wild plans, and they're happy for me instead of like, annoyed with me, and I really appreciate that. It's nice to have someone in your corner who kind of understands what your grand total vision is. So Freddie was on board for the whole adventure. We had it all lined up. I messaged the seller, and he said someone was coming to look at it. And then boom, just like that, a couple hours later, it was gone, which was a shame. It's definitely one that got away. Not that, the thing is, it for how many miles on it, it's a fair price, and he got what he asked for, so that's good. I actually, and this is peeling back the curtain even more. Now I got obsessed with diesel vehicles and trying to convert them to vegetable oil. And then I got obsessed with swapping a diesel engine into an Aerostar for that purpose. And if you go on the forums, there is actually a gentleman that has done this several times. Now, I believe he does not live in the US, so there's different engines and different availability options there, but I think it can be done. And to run a Aerostar, no less, on a diesel, but then also on vegetable oil, so you have little to no fuel costs and 80% reduced emissions, be like a dream for me. So I thought this was the perfect candidate for that, because it was so high miles and because it already had this kind of funky paint scheme going on. Now I love this baby blue. Let's give you some more views of it again. It's probably a rattle can job. It's probably not perfect up in person. I'm sure like the pictures probably, what's the opposite of not doing it justice? I'm sure they do it more justice than it deserves. But I was like, it's kind of a really cool color. It's like this, sort of baby electric blue. I love how the bumper was also painted. And obviously, they went through enough trouble to at least like take off the decals or tape around them. And I have this Aerostar badge who's kind of falling apart here, which is interesting. It looks just like it's an Aero XLT. But it has a decent amount of, gloss to it too. It doesn't look too bad, honestly. And these wheels were just perfect. Again, I said, like, I'm not a huge fan of aftermarket wheels on Aerostar. It's funny how it just says Aero. But these to me just work. Now you do see this rust here, which I didn't notice before, down in your rocker a little bit there. These wheels just work for me. I mean, especially with the paint job. It's funny how the paint job, if it was just like a standard Aerostar color, then the wheels might look a little strange. But with that paint job, it just looks gorgeous. I mean, it's just like a very unique Aerostar. Here's the interior. Now this is interesting because it looks like the interior, I don't know if it's just stained in here. Pretty rough, but again, I didn't really care because this was going to be a work vehicle, and it was going to be one I was going to rip the engine out of anyway. So it was kind of the perfect candidate. You almost don't want one that's too, you definitely don't want one that's too nice, because then you're kind of like, you know, not ruining it, but like, you know, kind of wasting the good quality of it. So obviously you see here we have your facelift interior. Very nice shot of it actually there. You kind of get a sense of what it's like to get behind the wheel of this thing. And everything looks fine. It has a nice tan interior, black and tan, which of course we love. The seats are a little dirty. Your dog door there, very dirty. Looks like it's been, you know, been opened up a couple times. You got some oil in there. Looks like they're using synthetic. Now you do have this, of course, beautiful piping with these two-tone seats. Quite stained, but again, don't care. It's going to be a work vehicle, you know. There, and you have your roll-down windows or your crank windows. Crank windows, of course, always good, just in case you drive off of a pier. There you have it, sliding door. And now this, again, it's so weird because it looks like, I guess that's the seat cover, but it looks like it's been like stained red for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. If this was baby blue with an all red interior, that would be like, oof, then I probably would have had to drive down there myself, fly down there myself and get it. But this bright color really, I think, you know, it would have been cool to see the Aerostar do like a pastel series, or like a, you know, there's a couple orange Aerostars floating out. I actually think the Aerostar wears orange incredibly well. Now, orange is my favorite color, so one day I may have to have an orange Aerostar. But again, just with the light blue with the black, very simple. It's kind of a two-tone scheme throughout. I almost like that the door doesn't really quite match everything else. I don't know if that's sun fade or what. And of course the great Mustang wheels. I just can't stop looking at this thing, and that's why, like, you know, you have to resist buying every single one, and so far I've managed to do that. But there are some where it's just like, boom, like I gotta take a crack at this one, you know. So I did, and you know, didn't get it, but that's all right. But I had to show everyone before it disappeared. So this is a beautiful 1996 Ford Aerostar minivan. So to finish up the scheme though, Freddie, every year we have this little backyard baseball tournament, and we've been doing it since we were in middle school, and now it's kind of become a once-a-year thing. It's a good chance for people to see each other again. It's a really special time. It's all wonderful. And Freddie, who is a friend of another friend, has been coming. He's won the MVP trophy, and he's been coming ever since he came the first year. Now, he is not originally from the town we're all from. He's sort of a, you know, a transplant, I guess you would say. But since he came that first year, he has been just the most loyal and dedicated attendee of this event. And so he's really just, you know, and his spirit of play and his just general enthusiasm for life is very infectious. And so he's become somewhat of a legend on this on these hallowed grounds. So the plan was purchase the vehicle, have it sit in Richmond, and then have him drive the vehicle up from Richmond, and that would chauffeur him, allow him to get to the event this year, and it would be sort of a grand entrance too, you know, driving right onto the field with this like bright blue Aerostar, and it's like, you know, just a perfect entrance. And then it's a good way for me to not have to tell all these people that I bought another Aerostar. It's just like, well, here it is. So it was like sort of a brilliant scheme in my head. At least I thought so. And wasn't to be, but now we can still appreciate these photos, and we have just a little bit more, you know, money in our pocket. So there it is, just striking, gorgeous, breathtaking, really iconic 1996 or 1997, depending on who you ask. Now it does have the, you know, amber in the taillight, so chance starts in 96. Ford Aerostar, listed just a week ago in Richmond, Virginia, the one that got away. So thanks so much for watching. We'll be back with more of our SoCal residency soon, but just wanted to throw that one in there. And boy, just can't stop looking at it. So this has been Year of the Aerostar. Thank you so much for watching. And until the next one, Janky do Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.